In the shadow of Norse mythology, three beings were born, feared by gods, destined for chaos. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf fated to devour Odin. Jörmungandr, the world serpent whose coils encircle Midgard. Hel, the ruler of the underworld, presiding over the dead. These are Loki's children, cursed, cast out, and bound by fate. But why did the gods fear them? And how did their destinies intertwine with Ragnarok, the end of all things? Join us as we uncover the chilling tales of Loki's offspring and their dark fate. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf of Norse mythology, was born of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angerboda. From the moment of his birth, he was a creature of terror, destined to bring destruction upon the gods. His immense strength and rapid growth alarmed the Aesir, who foresaw the danger he posed to Asgard and all of existence. Though they attempted to control him, their efforts proved futile, and Fenrir's fate became intertwined with their own. As a young cub, Fenrir grew at an unnatural rate, surpassing any ordinary wolf in both size and ferocity. The gods initially allowed him to roam freely in Asgard under the watchful eye of Tyr, the god of war and justice. Tyr was the only one brave enough to feed and interact with Fenrir, for the other gods dared not approach the beast. However, as Fenrir's strength grew, so did the gods' unease. The prophecies of Ragnarok foretold that Fenrir would one day break free and devour Odin, the Allfather. This knowledge filled the gods with dread, and they resolved to restrain him before it was too late. The gods first attempted to bind Fenrir with powerful chains forged from the strongest metals. They presented these bindings to him as a test of strength, challenging him to break free. Fenrir, proud and fearless, accepted the challenge. With a single shake of his massive body, he shattered the chains as if they were nothing but twigs. Undeterred, the gods forged even stronger bonds, doubling their thickness and reinforcing them with enchantments. Once again, they proposed the challenge, and once again, Fenrir snapped the chains with ease. The gods realized that ordinary means would never be enough to contain the wolf. Desperate for a solution, the gods turned to the dwarves, the master craftsmen of Norse mythology, renowned for their ability to forge the most magical and indestructible objects. The dwarves crafted a special fetter called Gleipnir, unlike any chain ever made. It was composed of 6 impossible substances: the sound of a cat's footsteps, the roots of a mountain, the sinews of a bear, the breath of a fish, the beard of a woman, and the spittle of a bird. Despite its delicate appearance, Gleipnir was imbued with magic that made it stronger than any iron chain. The gods approached Fenrir once more and presented Gleipnir as yet another test. But this time, Fenrir grew suspicious. The chain was so thin and light that it seemed unlikely to restrain him, yet the gods were insistent. Sensing deceit, Fenrir refused to allow himself to be bound unless one of the gods placed their hand in his mouth as a pledge of good faith. The gods hesitated, knowing the risk, but Tyr, understanding the necessity of their deception, bravely stepped forward and placed his hand in Fenrir's jaws. The moment Gleipnir was secured around Fenrir, the wolf attempted to break free, thrashing and struggling with all his might. However, no matter how much he fought, the magical fetter held firm. Realizing he had been tricked, Fenrir roared in fury and bit down on Tyr's hand, severing it at the wrist. Tyr bore the pain in silence, knowing that his sacrifice had ensured the safety of the gods, at least for a time. Bound by Gleipnir, Fenrir was taken to a remote location, where the gods secured him to a massive rock with another chain called Jelja. To ensure he would not escape, they drove a sword into his mouth, forcing his jaws open so he could not bite. From that moment on, Fenrir remained in captivity, his furious howls echoing throughout the realms, a constant reminder of the doom that awaited the gods. Despite their success in binding him, the gods knew their victory was only temporary. The prophecies foretold that when Ragnarok came, Fenrir would break free, shaking the very foundations of the world. He would storm across the battlefield, his massive jaws stretched wide, consuming everything in his path. On that fateful day, he would fulfill his destiny and slay Odin, only to be slain himself by Odin's son, Vidar, who would avenge his father by tearing the wolf apart. Fenrir's story is one of inevitability, fear, and fate. Though the gods sought to change the course of destiny, their actions only delayed the inevitable. His tale serves as a powerful reminder of the limits of power, the consequences of fear, and the unrelenting march of fate in Norse mythology. Jörmungandr, the world serpent. In the grand tapestry of Norse mythology, few beings are as formidable and awe-inspiring as Jörmungandr, the Midgard serpent. A child of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angerboa, Jörmungandr was one of 3 monstrous offspring, alongside Fenrir, the great wolf, and Hel, the ruler of the underworld. Upon learning of these offspring, the All-Father Odin cast Jörmungandr into the ocean that encircles Midgard, the realm of humanity. There, the serpent grew to such an enormous size that it eventually encircled the entire world, grasping its own tail in its mouth. The symbolism of the world serpent. Jörmungandr represents a profound concept in Norse cosmology, the eternal cycle. By biting its own tail, the serpent forms an Ouroboros, an ancient symbol found in many cultures, representing infinity, destruction, and renewal. As the boundary between the known world, Midgard, and the chaotic forces of the deep, Jörmungandr embodies the thin veil between order and destruction. It is both a guardian and a harbinger of doom, destined to play a crucial role in the prophesied end times, Ragnarok. Jörmungandr and Thor, a mortal rivalry. Thor, the mighty god of thunder and protector of Midgard, was Jörmungandr's sworn enemy. Their enmity is a central theme in Norse myths, representing the clash between divine order and primordial chaos. The two foes encountered each other on multiple occasions, each battle foreshadowing their ultimate confrontation during Ragnarok. One of the most famous stories of their encounters occurs during Thor's fishing trip with the giant Hymir. Hoping to catch something mighty, Thor used the head of an ox as bait and cast his line into the ocean. Jörmungandr took the bait, and a fierce struggle ensued. The sea churned as Thor strained to pull the massive serpent from the depths. Just as Thor was about to strike the serpent with his hammer, Mjolnir, Hymir, in terror, cut the fishing line, allowing Jörmungandr to slip back into the ocean. This encounter, however, was only a prelude to their final battle. The role of Jörmungandr in Ragnarok. According to Norse prophecy, Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, would bring about the end of the cosmos as it was known. During this cataclysmic battle, Jörmungandr would rise from the depths of the sea, its massive body thrashing and causing massive tidal waves that would flood the lands. It would join the forces of chaos, led by Loki and the fire giant Surtur, to wage war against the Aesir gods. In their final encounter, Thor and Jörmungandr would engage in a battle of unparalleled ferocity. Thor, wielding Mjolnir, would finally succeed in slaying the great serpent. However, Jörmungandr's death would come at a terrible cost. As the serpent perishes, it releases its deadly venom into the air, and Thor, after taking 9 steps away from the corpse, succumbs to the poison and dies. Legacy of Jörmungandr. The myth of Jörmungandr endures as one of the most powerful narratives in Norse mythology. It serves as a reminder of the inevitable nature of fate and the balance between creation and destruction. The serpent's role as both a boundary and a harbinger of the world's end reflects a worldview that sees existence as cyclical rather than linear. In modern culture, Jörmungandr continues to inspire literature, art, and media. From video games to novels, the image of the world-encircling serpent remains a potent symbol of power, mystery, and the inexorable march of fate. Through Jörmungandr's story, we glimpse the grand themes that permeate Norse mythology: the tension between chaos and order, the inevitability of fate, and the heroism of gods who fight knowing their doom is certain. It is a tale that, much like the serpent itself, wraps around the world and connects past, present, and future in an eternal cycle. Hel, Queen of the Underworld. Hel is the daughter of Loki, the trickster god, and the giantess Angerboda. She is one of 3 monstrous children born of this union, alongside the great wolf Fenrir and the serpent Jörmungandr. Because of their formidable nature, the gods of Asgard feared these siblings and sought to contain them before they could bring destruction upon the world. Odin, the All-Father, cast Hel down into Niflheim and granted her dominion over those who did not die in battle. From this position, she ruled over a vast, dreary underworld, ensuring the souls of the dead remained in her keeping. Hel's appearance and symbolism. Hel's physical form is as unsettling as her domain. She is often described as being half alive and half dead, one side of her body appearing normal, while the other is pallid, cold, and corpse-like. This dichotomy is significant, representing the boundary between life and death, warmth and cold, vitality and decay. Her divided appearance serves as a visual metaphor for her role as a gatekeeper between existence and the afterlife. Her grim visage is not just a reflection of death's inevitability, but also of its impartiality. Unlike the more selective realms of Valhalla or Folkvanger, which are reserved for warriors, Hel's domain accepts all who succumb to the natural course of life. This reinforces the Norse belief that death comes to all, whether they die in glory or in quiet surrender to age and disease. The nature of Niflheim. Niflheim, meaning mist home or mist world, is a cold and dreary place, shrouded in perpetual fog and darkness. It is one of the 9 realms in Norse cosmology and is often described as a land of ice, with frozen rivers and inhospitable landscapes. Within Niflheim lies Helheim, the specific region ruled by Hel, where the souls of the dead reside. This is not a realm of torment in the sense of Christian hell, but rather a place of gloom and inertia, reflecting the Norse view of death as an unavoidable and often bleak fate. According to myth, Hel's hall, Ljnr, stands at the heart of her realm. Its name translates to sprayed with snowstorms, evoking an image of a desolate and unwelcoming place. Within its walls, Hel rules over the dead with an impassive and unyielding demeanor. The gates of her realm, barred and difficult to escape from, signify the finality of death. Once a soul enters Helheim, it cannot easily return to the land of the living. Hel's role in Norse mythology. Though Hel does not frequently appear in surviving Norse texts, her influence is profound. One of the most well-known stories featuring Hel is the death of Baldur, the beloved god of light and purity. After Baldur is slain due to Loki's machinations, his soul travels to Helheim. The gods, grieving his loss, send the messenger Hermr to Hel's domain to plead for Baldur's return. Hel agrees to release Baldur on one condition: that all things in existence must weep for him. The gods spread the word, and everything weeps, except for the giantess Thok, widely believed to be Loki in disguise. Because of this refusal, Baldur remains in Hel's realm until Ragnarok. This story highlights Hel's authority over the dead and her unwavering adherence to the rules of her domain. Even the gods cannot bend the laws of her realm, illustrating the Norse understanding that death, once come, is absolute and inescapable. Hel's connection to Ragnarok. During Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world, Hel's role becomes even more significant. It is said that she will send forth the dead to fight alongside her father, Loki, and her brother, Fenrir, against the gods of Asgard. This army of the dead, known as the dishonored dead, rises from Helheim to take part in the final battle. This event underscores the idea that the forces of destruction and chaos, represented by Loki's children, are integral to the cosmic cycle of creation, destruction, and renewal. Hel's legacy and interpretations. Hel's figure has endured beyond the Viking Age, influencing later portrayals of the afterlife and even contributing to the linguistic evolution of the word Hel. While the Christian concept of Hel is distinct from Hel's realm, the name similarity has led to misconceptions equating the two. Unlike the fiery torment depicted in Christian theology, Helheim is a cold and indifferent place, more akin to the Greek underworld of Hades than a realm of punishment. Modern interpretations of Hel vary widely. She has been depicted in literature, art, and popular culture, often as a figure of death, mystery, or even misunderstood villainy. Her dual nature, both living and dead, resonates with contemporary audiences, symbolizing the complexity of mortality and the balance between light and darkness. Hel, as ruler of Niflheim, embodies the Norse perspective on death, an unavoidable, often grim reality that awaits all who do not fall in battle. Her eerie duality, unwavering governance, and pivotal role in key myths cement her as a formidable and essential character in Norse lore. Neither wholly villainous nor entirely benevolent, she serves as a stark reminder of life's transience and the inexorable pull of fate. In the vast and intricate world of Norse mythology, Hel stands as a powerful figure, one who guards the dead and upholds the final boundary between the living and the departed. The legacy of Loki's children. In Norse mythology, few figures embody the forces of chaos and destruction as profoundly as Fenrir, Jörmungandr, and Hel. These three beings, children of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angrboda, are fated from birth to play significant roles in the end of the world, Ragnarok. Despite the gods' efforts to restrain them, their destinies were inescapable, and each would bring about cataclysmic change in their own way. Their stories reflect a deep understanding of the cyclical nature of destruction and rebirth, illustrating the Norse belief that chaos is both a necessary and inevitable part of existence. Fenrir, the beast of fate. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, is perhaps the most fearsome of Loki's offspring. His story is one of fear, betrayal, and unrelenting doom. As a young wolf, Fenrir was raised among the gods, but his rapid growth and immense power terrified them. Recognizing the threat he posed, the gods attempted to bind him with increasingly stronger chains, each time deceiving him into submission. Eventually, they sought the help of the dwarves, who forged the magical ribbon Gleipnir, made from impossible things. The sound of a cat's footfall, the roots of a mountain, a woman's beard, a fish's breath, a bird's spittle, and the sinews of a bear. This seemingly fragile ribbon was unbreakable. Fenrir, sensing trickery, agreed to be bound only if one of the gods placed a hand in his mouth as a pledge of good faith. The god Tyr, known for his courage and honor, stepped forward, knowing he would lose his hand. When Fenrir found himself unable to break free, he bit down, severing Tyr's hand, an act that symbolized the god's betrayal and the inevitable consequences of trying to control fate. Bound and muzzled, Fenrir was left to rage in captivity, his howls shaking the heavens. However, the gods' attempt to prevent destruction was futile. During Ragnarok, Fenrir would break free and wreak havoc, devouring Odin, the All-Father, before being slain by Odin's son Vidar. His fate was inescapable, a manifestation of the Norse view that attempts to avoid destiny often lead to its fulfillment. Fenrir embodies the uncontrollable aspects of chaos, the inevitability of destruction no matter how much one tries to prevent it. Jörmungandr, the world serpent's cycle of destruction. Jörmungandr, the great serpent, represents another aspect of chaos, one that is deeply intertwined with the natural order of the world. Cast into the ocean by Odin in an attempt to control his power, Jörmungandr grew to such an immense size that he encircled the entire world, biting his own tail. His presence became an omen of destruction, for it was said that when he released his tail, Ragnarok would begin. One of the most famous encounters with Jörmungandr occurs when Thor, the god of thunder, goes fishing with the giant Hymir. Using an ox's head as bait, Thor manages to hook the great serpent, pulling him from the depths. As Thor prepares to strike with Mjolnir, Hymir, fearing the consequences, cuts the line, allowing Jörmungandr to slip back into the sea. This moment, a near fulfillment of prophecy, reinforces the notion that fate is inevitable. No matter how many times destruction is delayed, it will eventually come to pass. During Ragnarok, Jörmungandr emerges from the ocean, poisoning the skies with his venom. He and Thor engage in their final battle, a clash that has been foreseen for ages. Thor ultimately slays the serpent, but not before being fatally poisoned. The image of Jörmungandr and Thor falling together reflects the cycle of destruction and rebirth, a cosmic balance where even the gods are not exempt from the forces of chaos. Jörmungandr's role as a world-encircling force speaks to the idea that chaos is not just an external threat, but an intrinsic part of existence itself. Hel, the sovereign of the dead. While Fenrir and Jörmungandr manifest destruction in physical battles, Hel's influence is more subtle yet just as powerful. As the ruler of the realm of the dead, Hel presides over those who die of sickness and old age, a stark contrast to the honored dead who ascend to Valhalla. Her domain, often described as cold, dark, and somber, is neither a place of torment nor paradise. It is simply the inevitable fate of most mortals. When the gods learned of Hel's origins, they sought to control her by giving her dominion over the underworld. Yet, in doing so, they unknowingly cemented her place as an unshakable force in the cosmic order. Her greatest role in Ragnarok comes through her connection to Baldur, the beloved god of light. After Baldur's death, Hel refuses to release him unless all things in existence weep for him. When one being, the disguised Loki, refuses, Baldur remains trapped in her realm. This act reinforces the inescapability of fate. No amount of pleading or intervention can undo what is destined. Hel's existence symbolizes the inevitability of death and the permanence of the past. Unlike Fenrir and Jörmungandr, whose destruction is active and violent, Hel represents a more passive force, an unyielding stillness that contrasts with the chaos her siblings bring. Yet, her role is just as essential in the cycle of Ragnarok, as she ensures that even the gods cannot escape the finality of death, the inevitability of Ragnarok, and the cycle of rebirth. Despite the gods' best efforts, the fates of Fenrir, Jörmungandr, and Hel were sealed from the moment of their birth. Each, in their own way, plays a critical role in the downfall of the gods and the destruction of the world. However, Norse mythology does not end with despair. After Ragnarok, a new world rises from the ashes, with a few surviving gods and humans to rebuild. This cycle of destruction and rebirth is central to Norse cosmology, where even the mightiest must fall to make way for renewal. Fenrir, Jörmungandr, and Hel serve as powerful symbols of the forces that cannot be controlled. The wild, untamed power of fate, Fenrir; the inevitable balance of destruction and renewal, Jörmungandr; and the finality of death, Hel. Together, they remind us that chaos is not merely an antagonist to order, it is an integral part of the cosmic cycle. Through their stories, Norse mythology captures the harsh realities of existence while offering the promise of renewal, proving that even in destruction, there is the seed of a new beginning. Fenrir, Jörmungandr, and Hel, three children, three destinies, all woven into the end of the world. Bound, cast away, or left to rule the dead, their fates were sealed by the fear of the gods. Yet, in Ragnarok, they would rise, bringing destruction and change. Were they truly villains, or simply fulfilling their roles in fate's grand design? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into Norse mythology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more legendary tales. Until next time, beware the coming of Ragnarok.